the Town Council meeting of Monday, March 11th, 2024. It is 7 o'clock PM. Madam Town Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Public hearing first?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Let's go to public hearing first. We can still do the roll, right? Yeah, do the roll.
Do the roll? Okay.
Sorry, Victoria, you had to say that.
James Morelli. Tony Morrison.
Here.
Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Jack Perry.
Here.
Jennifer Klock. Here. Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo. Here. William Dietzick.
Here.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here, and I did hear from Jim Morelli. He is traveling today, and he is unable to attend. So we will move into the public hearing. Do we have a presenter today to talk about the
Yes.
Appropriations?
I'll read the public hearing into the record. This is an ordinance appropriating $15 million for the costs related to the 24-25 Road and Bridge Improvement Program and authorizing the issuance of $15 million bond and notes to finance the appropriation. For presentation, we have our Public Works Director.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
We're here to talk about our $15 million road bond to be used for 2024-2027 road construction. We're going to start just with a little background from 2019. The town retained a company called StreetScan. They did their first assessment in the fall of 2019. And basically what they do is they assign a PCI, which is a pavement condition index, to every road or road segment between 0 and 100. 0 would be a completely failed road, 100 would be a brand-new paved road. Just to explain the segment portion of it, if you have a long road, for example, maybe East Street, one end of it could be in a completely different condition than the other end, so they usually break it up at various intersections, and longer roads are just separated into the segments. So at that time, in 2019, after the first assessment, our average PCI was a 76, and that falls into the good category. Some were as low as in the 30s. Now, just to give you a comparison, we have 213 road segments, 50 and below, but that's out of 1,470 segments. So we are making progress. At this time, our recommendation was to do the worst roads first, initially. And if you think about it, it makes sense. If you're bringing a road with a PCI of, say, 33, up to 100, it's going to have more profound effect on the average PCI than overlaying a road that already has a PCI of maybe 75, 76. But our plan was, after the first round, which was basically 2019 to 2023, we would include more averagely rated roads. So in 2019, we continued spending about $3 million per year. However, we, at that time, had a $30 million backlog. So spending $3 million a year, we did still expect that the average PCI was going to decrease, even with the construction. So StreetScan recommends that they do a new assessment every 3 to 4 years. We had them back in 2022 to do exactly what they did in 2019. We found that the average PCI was a 66. Which dropped into the fair category. As I said, we expected the decrease. And now our backlog is $71.5 million, and that's due to a couple things. One is deterioration, one is inflation. Roads do deteriorate, and they deteriorate at different rates. It depends on the weather, it depends on how they were initially constructed, it depends on utility work and patches. All those affect the deterioration of the road. No two roads are really going to deteriorate at the same rate. So it depends how the roads hold up. And then inflation, it's a bit self-explanatory. We all know what inflation is, but I will discuss more on a future slide. So as I mentioned, as was planned last time, we were doing the absolute worst roads first. Now that we've improved some of those, we're going to move away from that. We're going to move away from only doing reconstruction and mill and overlay, and we want to include an intermediate process for roads in the 60 to 80 pavement condition index range. I considered a lot of options. We discussed a lot of things. I believe And I discussed with the Public Works Committee and the town manager that Cape Seal is our best option. We Cape Sealed several roads in 2015 and 2016, and according to the 2022 assessment, they held up very well. They decreased an average of only about 5 PCI points from 2019 to 2022. And again, keep in mind they were done in 15, 16. Some of the PCIs on the Cape Seal roads didn't change at all over the 3 years. What is Cape Seal? It's basically a rubber chip seal, but it has a bonded wearing course over the top. So it provides the durability of a chip seal, but with a smooth surface. There's no loose stone, like with a chip seal only, and we plan to do the chip seal one day, followed by the bonded wearing course the very next day. So it will not be left as just a chip sealed road for more than a day. We certainly don't want to inconvenience any of the residents. This option is very cost effective. To Cape Seal a road, it's $13.50 a square yard. To give you a comparison, a 2-inch mill and overlay is $36.50 a square yard. 4-inch mill and overlay is $60 a square yard, and then full depth reconstruction is about $100 a square yard. Those last 3 numbers I gave you do include drainage repairs and other utility work underground. And the reason we do that is when we do these processes, the roads are expected to last another 20 plus years. So you don't want to be cutting into them with a utility patch. The Cape Seal has an expected life of 10 years if you do the rubber Cape Seal. And basically, we wouldn't do such extensive utility repairs because it's not such an expensive process. If you did have to cut into the road, it wouldn't be the end of the world like a newly paved mill and overlaid road. It's also thin enough where we shouldn't have to raise catch basin tops, so we do cut down on the cost there. And as I mentioned before, this process is appropriate for a PCI range of 60 to 80, and that's about 50% of our road segments fall into that range.
Annette, before you move on, can I just ask a quick question before you move
Yes.
on? On your last slide, just out of curiosity, what was the cost for the chip seal alone?
I think it's in the 550 to 750 range, somewhere around there. It's
Okay,
about,
so it's even cheaper than the Cape Seal.
yes, because it doesn't include that bonded
That
wearing
extra
course over
bonded,
the top.
Okay, okay, I was just curious.
So while we're going slide by slide, does anybody else have questions on this slide? Or the previous slide?
Well, just one on the previous slide. I was going to wait till the end. The jump up from 30 million to 71.5. Are we always going to be chasing our tail? What will stop us chasing our tail?
Well,
You'll go into that.
yeah,
I'll wait. I'll
we'll
wait.
get there.
Anybody else have a question? I had one clarification in it, just
Oh, sorry.
on the last slide. So if I understand what you said, Cape Seal is a 10-year lifespan.
Yes,
2-inch, 4-inch, and full depth is 20 years?
20 plus.
What's the percentage today of 2, 4, and full depth that we typically do, roughly? What are we doing the most of?
Right now?
Yeah.
All we've been doing in the last few years is mill and overlay and full depth. We haven't been doing any intermediate process.
So are you doing a 2-inch, a 4-inch, or full depth? I'm trying to get an understanding of where our price per square yard is typically as compared to Cape Seal.
We don't do a lot of 4-inch mill. Sometimes we find that there's not enough existing pavement to do the 4-inch mill. So we generally do mostly 2-inch mill with a little bit of full depth, only because the full depth is so expensive. We can't afford to do too much of it.
So if you're looking at comparing Cape Seal with 2-inch mill and overlay, you really have to look at 2 Cape Seals to get 20 years worth of life, right? If you're comparing apples to apples, and if you're trying to compare the costs, so you're probably looking at, 30 to 40% benefit if you were to do it twice.
If you simplify it, I mean, again, it's going to depend on how the road deteriorates and what kind of process it needs 10
Okay.
years from now,
But it would allow us to catch up quicker.
perhaps.
Gotcha.
All right, so this is our historical data from 2013 to 2023. I highlighted just the total mileage we did in each year. I won't read the whole slide to you. It tells you what processes we've done. We've been doing approximately 3 million in road construction per year, maybe closer to 2.5 in the earlier years. I'd like to point out 2013 to compare that to 2020 through 2023, because these years, all we did was reconstruction and/or mill and overlay. So with approximately the same money, we did 8.89 miles in 2013, but from 2020 to 2023, we did between 3.18 and 4.85 miles per year. This demonstrates the inflation I was talking about before. The costs have basically doubled over 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do we go from here? Well, the proposed construction for 2024 to 2027, if the referendum passes, we'd have $15 million that we can plan for. We would plan on doing $4 million per year of road construction. We would have the road bond money supplemented with town aid road and LoSiP funds. We can't obviously abandon the worst roads, so what we would plan to do is $2 million of reconstruction and overlay and $2 million of Cape Seal. And what that gives us for mileage we can cover is about 2 to 2.6 miles per year of reconstruction and mill and overlay, and then about 9 to 10 miles per year of Cape Seal. So each year, we would total between 11 and 12.6 miles approximately. This is a significant increase over the last several years. I don't want to be the black cloud, but I just want to note again that our backlog is $71.5 million. So even with the additional funds, the average PCI is still going to decrease. But I think what we realistically need to do is to minimize this decrease as much as we possibly can. And by including Cape Seal, this intermediate process, will significantly increase the mileage of roads that we can improve for the residents. Any additional money is always a help. I think it's a step in the right direction. I've spent a great deal of time with the town manager and the Public Works Committee to ensure we'll use the money we're given, in the wisest possible way. That's really all I have to present to you tonight. If you have additional questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Any other questions? Yes, Val, please.
Thank you. So the intermediate process is for the PCI of between 60 and 80.
Yes,
And you said that's about 50% of our roads.
they fall into that range.
The range of like 80, above 80%, what percentage of, do you know what percentage of roads fall in? Because that we can't use the intermediate process. right?
Yeah, I did not do that calculation, but I did say earlier how many we had 50 and under, and it wasn't very many.
Was that where you said the 213 of the
Yeah.
1,000?
Yeah.
Something roads, okay.
Yeah, so
So the ability to use the intermediate process with the Cape Seal, that's allowing us to stretch out to be able to do more mileage
right,
of roads.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you said 11 to 12 and a half per year. So in 4 years, say that's about 48, right?
Yes.
Miles. And if that decrements the backlog, as you've got here, how much does that backlog grow during those 4 years in the sense of other roads are getting worse? So there's always an addition to the backlog. Do you know how much that is on an average basis, or?
Well, not really, because as we saw from 19 to 22, you don't know what the inflation's going to be,
Yeah, okay.
and you don't know at what rate the roads are going to deteriorate. If we have a few easy winters, the roads might be in good shape. If we have some rough winters, they might deteriorate a lot. It depends.
Thank you.
I would love to answer that question, but
I know you would.
Jack, did you have?
Yes, thank you. So, quick question, the 71.5 million backlog, when you say backlog, is that bringing every road up to 100, or what number would that bring every road up to at the 71?
I believe that's what the program does. StreetScan comes with a pretty sophisticated program, and basically you can enter parameters into it, like how much money you have to work with every year, how many years you want to project out, and then you also put in the processes that you want to use, how much they cost per square yard, and for what PCIs you would use them. So it uses that data that the town is actually using to then go look at the PCIs and say, all right, if we were going to make every road perfect, you need $71 million.
Okay, and then the last thing, this is just my thoughts are, you stated that, the roads will decrease or need to keep up with our current standards of 3 million a year. So if we're doing 4 million a year, we're really only going in the positive of 1 million. Is that kind of right?
I don't think I understood your question. Can you say that
One
again?
of the slides you
We're doing
had.
4
up-
miles, not million.
No, I thought one of the slides showed that it's 3 million a year to keep our roads at the current levels that they're
Well,
at.
that's what we're spending right now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just what we're spending, because that's what
So
we
what-
had.
So what is the dollar, does this software allow you to figure out what the deterioration value is each year?
What the deterioration value is of the
Yeah.
roads?
Yes.
It does, if you do say I want a budget for 4 years, it does factor in how much the road is going to deteriorate over those years. It uses a standard deterioration curve.
I guess my question is if our average, just throwing out a number, was 75 right
Mm-hmm.
now, I just was trying to figure out or learn what it would cost to keep our 75 each year. And I guess each year is different.
Right.
You know, our winters, you know, play a big role on the roads with
Mm-hmm.
the frost heaving and such. So I just didn't know what that is, because if we're putting 4 million a year, you know, and they're deteriorating, I'm just throwing out 2
Mm-hmm. Right.
million, we're
Right.
only going in the positive of 2.
Right. It will calculate that, and I can get that for you. I don't have that off the top of my head, but that's something easy that the program can do. But what I did calculate was what the PCI reduction will be each year using the money we have, and it's about a 2.5% reduction.
Okay, thank you.
Chris?
The last update was 2022.
Yes.
When,
Towards the end of the year, I
the
believe.
end
I
of the
want to say fall.
okay, that's
Yeah.
good, because I
Yes.
was hoping it wasn't
yes.
like
No, it
now.
wasn't. No, it wasn't spring.
So, and you're confident that it's still over a year and a half old? It's still reliable data for us to move forward and make the
I do.
appropriate plan?
I do.
Okay. And,
Our winters have been pretty good.
yeah, yeah.
We're
yeah.
done now.
I hope so too.
Mark says we're done.
There were restrictions on the chip seal as far as
Mm-hmm.
the equipment to put it down in certain cul-de-sac areas. Is there
Yes.
similar with the mill and overlay, I'm sorry,
The Cape Seal?
Cape Seal.
It is, because the first layer is the chip seal, so you can't do basically the bulb of the cul-de-sac. That would just be a standard overlay,
Okay.
so.
You got to blend the process for.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And you plan for that and everything you've calculated, okay,
Yep.
great.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, just quickly, to have a real crack at the backlog, what would it take in the sense of, is it, no, obviously more bonding money? Is it more vendors to help us during the summer? Which of those?
It's all of the above. I mean, the money, I think, is the biggest limiting factor, but it's also, you know, being in New England, our time frame is limited. I mean, we do our construction when school gets out and try to be done before school gets back in. I mean, could that be expanded a little bit? Sure, it would affect the buses, but, I mean, we only have a few good months, and a lot more goes into it than just the milling and paving and the process you're doing. You have to start with the underground drainage, you know, improvements and everything, and realistically, you can't start that till April or May. So a lot of it's time and manpower. I mean, you would have to probably get more vendors. We do try to do some in-house, but yes, all of the above, to answer your question.
Okay. Anybody else? Val, you good? I wanted to just close and just say, I don't think it's a perfect science yet. I think we, you know, the vendor that we're using for the software, you know, we continue to work with them to refine this. I think as we get more data in each and every year and we run the street scan, I think the numbers will be a little bit more accurate and we'll be able to predict a little bit better. I think what you've given us here, Annette, is really good. I think this is the first time I've seen this type of analysis, so thank you for giving us that. And I think it's also important for the residents to see where their money's being spent and how we're going to cut into this. I take away the following. We're doing 4 to 5 miles per year today. That to me equates to, you're talking 18 to 20 miles in a 4-year cycle that we're able to do on average. Now we're going to move to 11 if things work out the way that you propose per year. That's going to equate to 44 to 48 miles in the 4-year cycle. That, to me, we're spending an additional 50% to try to catch up with this referendum, but we're getting more than 100% increase in the number of miles of roads in this 4-year cycle that we're able to tackle. And I think that's going to put a dent in things. It's going to put a bigger dent in things than if we weren't doing this. So I thank you for the presentation. It looks like, we're going to cut into roughly 25 additional miles of that 75 more than we would have. And I think that's roughly a third. We'll check that after this cycle. It gives us an opportunity to see where prices go. Maybe prices turn favorable, hopefully. If they don't, it gives us an opportunity to reflect a little bit more, take some more data, and then decide what the next referendum looks like. But thank you for bringing this forward.
Sure.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So with that, we will open, since we're in public hearing, is there anything else that we wanted to present on this?
The finance director's here in case someone had any financial questions for him.
I'm all set.
Great. Are we all set?
In that case, he doesn't-
Good. Then, is there anybody here from the public who would like to speak on this public hearing?
Regina Coviello, Toby. I actually just had a question, because this is new to me. I guess you call it the Cape
Just speak into the
Seal?
mic, Regina, please.
The-
You speak
the
to us and
Cape
we'll take the
Seal?
questions.
That's a new process that you're doing with the rubber? Is that something that you've had like data for years on?
We've done it
So you-
before, but Annette can answer your question.
Okay,
We have
I
done-
just didn't
Yep.
know if, how long the years, which one ends up being better.
If you have any other questions, address the questions, and then
that's
at
it.
the end, we'll have Annette
Yep,
come back
nope,
up.
that was it
So
for
have
me.
we been using the Cape Seal in the
Yeah,
past?
that's all.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions? Anybody else want to speak at the public hearing? In favor or against it? No? Roads was a hot topic this past cycle. I was surprised that we don't have a lot more people here, one way or another. Excellent. I guess that's a favorable thing for us. Okay, Annette, did you want to come up and just talk a little bit about the history with Cape Seal? And I know you also did send some information to members about some roads that have been done in the past as well, so.
I did. I'm not sure how long the process has existed, but it is a common process that a lot of towns use. And we ourselves did it in 2015 and 2016. And as our assessments from 19 to 22 showed, those roads really did hold up well. So I do have faith in the process. But if anyone is interested in finding out which roads we did Cape Seal, by all means, give me a call in the engineering department. I'll be happy to tell you which roads we did. And you can go see them for yourselves. We did my mom's road. I drive on it all the time. It's great.
YouTube is our friend. There's great videos on YouTube
Yes.
about the Cape Seal process. It's really neat.
Annette, maybe what you could do is you can submit your presentation for the minutes. And could you put in your presentation, maybe just to assist with the communication, at the end of the presentation, can you put in a couple of those roads?
Sure.
So that if somebody's seeing this meeting and they want to check the minutes, they can go to the end of the presentation. You can put in a couple of the roads that have been Cape Sealed, and they can look there.
Absolutely. And we're
And of course
eventually
they can
going to
call you.
post to the 2022 PCIs, the full list of every segment in town, and also the specific roads we plan to do for the next few years.
Wonderful.
Okay?
Tast you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, last call. Is there anybody else? Going once, twice? Okay. We will close the public hearing, and we will move into the prayer and the flag salute, if everybody can stand.
Our Father, help us this night to do the right thing in all the issues that we consider. Help us to not be persuaded by popular opinion or political ambition, but rather to see this office we hold as a gift from you. Help us walk upright in this calling. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we go to the meeting minutes, I just wanted to recognize and wish all of the women here happy International Women's Day last week. Thank all of you for all you are doing up here on the dais. Val, Jen, Kathy, Angela, and all the ladies that are out there for all that you do, whether it's in work or volunteer or at home. We thank you very much. Okay, why don't we move into the meeting minutes? We need a motion to approve the last meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 26th council meeting.
Second, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Okay, we are now moving into item 3, update on personal property declarations by Teresa Babin, the Director of Assessment and Revenue. Mr. Town Manager?
Yes, just for a couple of you who weren't on the council last session, Teresa presented last winter, and there was suggestion, the issue was that several companies did not file their personal property declaration. So the question was, do we move forward with getting a company to help us do that, or go through the education route? The council and staff went with the education route, and we promised to be back in 1 year, which we are, and Teresa will give us an update on that.
Hello.
T?
Hi, Teresa.
Hi.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
You promised us 1 year, and here you are.
I did. Here I am. And I do have a little bit of a synopsis of the whole past year, so. Excuse me. The personal property tax is a tax primarily shouldered by the business community in town, as it requires the declaration of all furniture, fixtures, and equipment owned and utilized by businesses on an annual basis. There are multiple state statutes that speak to the business's responsibility in declaring such items, and there are also multiple state statutes that dictate the actions taken by municipal assessors when we discover, list, and value those items, and include the personal property assessment in the updated grand list each October. On January 9th, 2023, I appeared in front of the Southington Town Council alongside representatives from Tax Management Associates, or TMA, an industry-respected audit firm, and requested to utilize their services with a personal property audit program here in town. I had obtained testimony from Connecticut assessors who had contracted with TMA in the past, and some of my colleagues were prepared to come in person to support my suggestion. At that January 9th meeting, I shared with Council that there were 727 businesses that did not file the required declaration. I also discussed the fact that many businesses were not filing correctly, although that percentage was a little harder to pinpoint. I finally mentioned that not ensuring the business community is assessed correctly only puts an additional unfair burden on residents. The comprehensive revenue projections that TMA provided us indicated that over the course of the 3-year program, they expected to discover over $2 million in tax revenue, an average of almost $700,000 per year. I came back to Council during the meeting of January 23rd, 2023, to provide a recap and receive a decision. At that time, the Council suggested I try to educate the business community on the filing requirements in an effort to spare business owners the perceived stress and financial strain of going through an audit. I attacked that assignment with gusto. I met with Barbara at the Chamber of Commerce. I sent letters to all businesses that highlighted a couple of statutes regarding the declaration filing requirements, and also provided 3 opportunities for business owners or their designees to come to the Municipal Center for an educational meeting, one in July at 6 p.m., one in August at 7 a.m., and one in September at 7 p.m. Each meeting was attended by an average of 20 individuals. At the end of my PowerPoint presentation, there was time for questions and answers. I have posted all that information on the assessor's webpage. It is there today and will remain there for the foreseeable future, which includes the questions and answers, the PowerPoint presentation, and a video recording of one of the sessions. As a result of my efforts, we had 85 fewer non-filers this year. That means we still have 642 businesses that do not file their declaration. That means we still have assessment inequity. That means reporting noncompliance still exists. That means I am not utilizing all of the tools in my toolbox to ensure the most equitable, comprehensive, accurate, and up-to-date grand list possible. That means that our town is not receiving the amount of personal property tax it is statutorily due. That means that residents continue to pay in the form of an increased mill rate because we don't hold the commercial base accountable. And that means that I'm back again, respectfully requesting the ability to contract with TMA to institute a personal property audit program here in Southington.
Thank you. Anybody have questions? Yes, Mike.
Thank you for the update,
You're welcome.
Teresa. Can you pinpoint an average of the 642 businesses that have not reported, an average of lost income to the town? Can you give me a generalization? Are we talking millions of dollars? Are we talking hundreds of thousands of dollars?
The businesses that haven't filed, that typically don't file, I feel are not your larger businesses in town. They're more of, the small home-based businesses, perhaps, mom and pop type setups.
Okay.
And honestly, I think that the program that I put on over the summer really appealed to that base.
Sure.
Most of the people that showed up were the small business owners. As far as money goes, though, I can't even begin to figure that.
Okay. And just a follow-up with that, Mr. Chair. if
Yes,
that's
please.
okay. So just a follow-up to that, is that every business in town received a letter
Every business.
stating that, this year is just a warning. Next year, you have to file. And what's the deadline for that?
The deadline for filing, the declarations go out in the middle of September. And the deadline, the last day to pay is the last day to file, is November 1st.
Okay.
And just for clarification, since Councilperson Del Santo brought this up, I think it's important, when you talk about people not filing, that doesn't mean they're not paying.
Correct.
That means that they didn't file, and you run a standard calculation based on the type of business that they have, their
Correct.
square footage or whatever it is. They get a bill, and they're paying the bill based on, they're actually paying a penalty on top of your assessment because they didn't file, and then they pay that amount based on what you send them the bill. So it's possible that some of them are underpaying, but it's also possible some of them are overpaying. Is that correct?
I suppose it's possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
we encourage everybody to file, and if our numbers are inaccurate, we'd be happy to fix them.
Sure. Anybody else have questions? Jack?
Yes, thank you. So if I remember correctly, TMA, when they did a proposal, they weren't going to go after every business.
Right.
They were going to, I guess, pick the larger ones.
I think they had a threshold of $50,000 in assets.
So my question is, of the 642, how many would fall in that category? Because again, if we're going to be fair, and we're trying to, bring the fairness level up, my concern is it only going to be 10 of the 642? That's my biggest concern here is if we're going to do it, my opinion is there shouldn't be a threshold. They seemed only inclined to go for the low-hanging fruit, the bigger ones that could, be more profitable. I know I had a meeting with the town manager, and we talked, and I just think, I know that your department doesn't have enough staff to be, going around, but I rather see personally more money spent on your department and staffing you to be able to go do audits randomly rather than hiring a company that is going to target businesses of certain sizes.
I would look forward to the process of the audit being done by a professional firm so that I could learn from it, so that I could understand the types of things that are asked for of businesses when that audit is performed, so that once the firm does its job, then I would have the tools necessary for me to actually go out to these businesses that haven't filed, some of them haven't even paid, but then it would fall on me to do the audits of those.
So I guess my question is, would that firm be interested in, again, they're grabbing a threshold here. Why don't the 642 that didn't file get audited? If that's our concern of the 642, why are we trying to audit the ones that are filing? I'm just trying to play,
Yep.
what I heard after that meeting from businesses of all different sizes.
Yeah. I totally lost my train of thought. Well, the small mom and pop businesses, the firm's not going to be able to audit those because it costs money to do the audit, and so the level of assets that might be discovered in a business of that size probably wouldn't justify the expense necessary to perform the audit. So typically, they do go for the larger businesses because they have documentation that those are the businesses that have more assets that may not be declared correctly. So it's not that they're trying to pick low-hanging fruit. They're trying to go in and make sure that all of the restaurants in town are declaring the same type of assets. And they're striving for equity in the assessment process. And I just don't think that the small businesses, if it's like, we had a lovely lady that came to one of the meetings, and she like hand crochets beanies for young children. I mean, that's not the type of business that's really going to have a lot of assets to audit in the first place. So I'm not looking, these 642 businesses that haven't filed, I'm not saying there's millions of dollars of undeclared assets associated with those businesses, but even after all of this outreach and all of the education, they still didn't file, and I find that extremely frustrating. And other businesses in town should find that extremely frustrating.
So the last thing I'm going to
Yeah,
state
just,
on that.
I just want to make sure we give other people a chance as well, so we're not having a back and forth,
No,
Jack.
I get it, I get it. It just, again, being a former business owner, I understand the hurdles, the obstacles. It just, again, to my understanding, we're being presented 642 not filing, and we're going to do an audit, but we're not going to really address the 642. So that's where I just a little concerned on that.
I don't want you to be under the impression that I'm not going to address the 642. I have to get the other businesses properly assessed and accounted for. And then I also think that, I mean, word's going to get out. And once word gets out, I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if it's in the newspaper and these businesses might finally take notice and realize that I'm serious about doing my job. I'm not trying to be some rogue, flying off the handle kind of assessor. I mean, I'm passionate about the job that I do. I was hired to do the best I can, and I just want to do my job.
Teresa, I know you. You're not a rogue flying off the handle assessor. I know that for a fact.
I'm just trying to do the best job I possibly can. So.
Okay. Val, Chris, I'm sorry, which one of you were first? Val?
I'll be brief. So Teresa, just to confirm, so the audit, I remember they were going to do that audit over 2 or 3 years, weren't they?
They're going to do all the audits over the course of 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Right.
So they had provided us with, I wish I had it on top here, but they did provide us with their cost, their projected,
Right.
and I can't find it, here it is. So 412 accounts that qualified for the audit, and that they estimated a total discovery of $78 million in assets.
With those 412.
And, yeah, they said the total estimated revenue was just over $2 million. And so I averaged that out to just about 700,000 extra tax dollars each year. When we're talking about paving roads and being $71 million in the hole, I should think that every bit would help. And it's not something that I'm going out to get without reason, I mean, other towns in Connecticut do this, and they maximize their assessment profile, and I just think that we should try to do the same thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jen, did you say you had a question?
I did. So I think to comment on Jack's question, this is part of my industry, auditing, and TMA probably likely has run data and analytics on compliance based on the businesses that were in, the total number. A lot of the smaller businesses likely wouldn't comply, and therefore it would kind of be a wasted effort to go start there. And it sounded like it was going to be a one-time approach with over 3 years, but why wouldn't it be a continuous approach? Because there's an education process that comes with this that I don't know that your staff would have the time to constantly be educating the documents that are needed, and not only the documents, but how to remotely upload those documents and electronically, and there's a whole process surrounding it, and as new businesses are shifting in and out of town, it's a constant circle. So would it be something, a 3-year cycle? It would make sense to me that it would be a 3-year cycle each time, or else
Right.
you would have to hire multiple staff members
Right.
to accommodate it.
That was my plan, because businesses are constantly coming and leaving and turning over. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of some of the businesses in town. But yes, I had planned on, once that first 3-year cycle was over, to revisit the process and to also be clear that when new businesses come to town, once we get trade name certificates filed in the town clerk's office, once we see advertising for businesses that we don't have on our personal property grand list, we send them out a letter, a welcome letter, a copy of the declaration. This is what you can expect to receive in September. So we reach out from the jump when these businesses come to town. And so this education piece that I did over the summer was something in addition to that. And there's nothing more satisfying to have a new business owner come to the counter and we sit with them and we go through the declaration, we explain things to them, and when they leave, they get it. And there's just something really satisfying about knowing that we helped somebody understand something that may have seemed like Greek to them at the beginning, because the state doesn't tell these new businesses what they have to do in their municipality. They just kind of send them out there, and I think it's unfair in that regard. But after we've done this kind of outreach, and we're trying to reach as many people as we can, and we still are woefully non-compliant, I think that other steps have to be taken.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Chris.
You said obviously 642 businesses did not file properly this year. How many total businesses do we have?
2,258.
2,000?
258.
2,258. Okay. All right. So that makes me feel a little better.
It's not 1,000.
50%, but no, that's good. Okay. And I'm sure professionally you've come across other towns that are in a similar situation to Southington. Have they gone this route of hiring a firm, or how have they turned this around?
There are a couple different routes. There are certain personal property auditors that will do 10 audits a year, and I don't think that that is nearly as comprehensive as we need, and I don't think that that's fair, to just pick 10 companies off of the list. I do know of many assessors that have used TMA and were very pleased with the outcome. They had no complaints, and that goes as far as the initial outreach of TMA to the taxpayer. That includes the way they dealt with the taxpayer throughout the whole audit process. They sit with the taxpayer once the audit is done, and they go over their findings. And the taxpayer does at that time have an opportunity to discuss and to maybe question some things. And once TMA sends the assessor the information, then the assessor goes ahead and adds the bill to the system. I haven't, not one of the people that I spoke to had anything negative to say about the process.
Okay. Great.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Bill?
Teresa, I'm remembering our back and forth about a year ago. So one, I think you're absolutely doing your job. If you weren't in front of us saying, let's collect as many tax dollars as we could, you wouldn't be doing your job. I recall my concern with TMA, and I don't remember where they came from. Maybe it was North Carolina.
He was from North Carolina,
Right.
yeah.
So somebody paid him a plane ticket, put him in a hotel to come up here to give us a pitch. So my concern with TMA is they're collecting on a contingency. So, they're not this quasi-governmental entity located in Middlesex County who's here helping us out to say, hey, here's how you educate yourselves. They make a lot of money collecting our tax dollars on a contingency basis. And what scared me the most of what they did is that I believe the statute allows for penalties on prior years, right? So if you're a business and, okay, you should have paid attention when you got the letter, everyone agrees. But now you didn't pay attention, so now it's year 2 or year 3 and you're behind. Now you have statutory penalties on your unpaid taxes. They know exactly what they're doing. They're going to target that industry. They know who has the large list of assets, and they're going to collect on penalties. So I guess what I'd say as a policymaker is that maybe there's an intermediary before we go to someone who's collecting on a contingency basis. Maybe we bring in someone who does 10 spot audits. You know, you do 2 restaurants, 2 manufacturing, 2 whatever, just something in the middle. And then they say within their trade, hey, I got this. They talk with each other. Instead of bringing in this company, though, that's going to take, you know, if you're saying $700,000 a year of unpaid taxes, right? They're going to take a large contingency of that for themselves. Again, someone put them on a plane to come up here to give us a pitch. They're not our friends. They are in the business of making money. So I'd like to see some sort of intermediary of just, let's try one more year. That'd be my opinion. Try one more year of trying to educate the taxpayers. And then, look, if you're year 3 into it and you haven't paid attention, then fine. You should pay your penalties. If they want to come in and collect, if we think that's a problem, then there. But I just think maybe one more step.
Okay. Anybody else? Mike?
I got, sorry, 2 quick ones. You had said we gained 85 additional this year from last year. And yeah, I know I asked you this last time. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I don't mean to do it again. But do we have any idea of the additional income that came from that 85 businesses?
No.
No.
I just ran a list of non-filers this year compared to non-filers last year.
Well, just as a follow-up, though, I mean, okay, so you know who the 85 are. I'm assuming you could pull that pretty easily, right? You could find out who the
Somehow,
85
I'd have to
are this year.
cross-reference, yeah, yep.
And then if you know those 85, they have some historical data from the year before that you can maybe compare the new versus the old. I would be interested in seeing that as well, Mr. Town Manager, if we can. I mean, I think before we,
That's why there's nothing on the agenda tonight.
Yeah, before any decisions.
This is to get as much information as we can, so Teresa and I can talk about it afterwards.
yeah, 85 is a good sample size. I think that would be very interesting to understand what was the benefit of getting those. I suspect it's good. Okay.
Like
thank
I
you.
said,
Sorry to
though,
interrupt.
just so you know, I suspect it's not going to be as good as you think it is because the people that paid attention to the outreach over the summer were the smaller businesses. But
Okay.
I'd be happy to.
Cool.
And then my second question
Yep.
was, you said that out of the 642 businesses that have not filed, in your estimation, how many are just, like you said earlier, the cottage bakery people or the small LLCs that really don't have a product, they don't make widgets, you know, they could be just a name or holding company. Would you say a large percentage of that 642, or you don't know?
I don't know. I mean, I have to study the list, and I'd have to make some assumptions while doing that, but I mean, I could probably figure something out.
Right. So just to echo Bill's sentiments, you're doing a fine job. And I was upset last year when we first heard about this because I think this council is very business friendly, and we have to continue to be business friendly. And I was really nervous last year that we were going to catch a lot of businesses in town in a place, in a time where they really couldn't afford to give any more. But if you're telling us that you've given every business in town all this education, you've held public hearings, you've allowed them to come in and ask any questions, we've allowed anyone to come and ask any questions, and you laid it all out, and you sent the letter out, you gave everyone 60 days to comply. And if there's still 642 businesses that haven't complied, in my estimation, none of them better call me and say, hey, what is this letter that I got? I'm like, because we did it all. We let you know, we rolled it out for you, we gave you every opportunity to do so. So I appreciate that as well, and I appreciate us not going forward last year because I was really concerned. But here we are a year later. As I said, we've given out all the education, and people did not follow through, and that disappoints me just a little. So I support collecting all the taxes that we can, of course, but and still in line with Councilman Diedzich's comments about a company coming in and taking a large portion of the lion's share of what we collect could be taken, depending on what the contingency is. So I do have my concerns about that, but definitely something to think through. And thank you again for the presentation.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Anybody else?
Also keep in mind that if they find $10 million from a subsection of business, that's not just a one-time finding. That finding is going to go,
Year after year.
So it's not just, so I would argue that what you said about the lion's share being taken by them. I don't agree with that, but okay. Next.
Val?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that, because it's a contingency fee. I understand what Bill's saying, but is there some intermediate type option? I mean, it sounds like the options are either your department does the random 10 a year, or whatever you can do, or you go with a company that's going to take a contingent fee, but is going to do a really good assessment over 3 years and put us on a good track. Is there something that, as Bill says, is there some other option that we don't?
I wrote that
Because
down.
10 audits a year isn't going to cut it.
Well, we did speak, and Jack mentioned it too. I spoke with several of you after the last meeting, and we talked about it. Teresa and I talked about the fact that is there somebody out there we hire on, we talked about hourly, whatever rate it would be. It's very difficult to get somebody, if you're dealing with one person, to get out there, or even two people to work and do the audits. It's not that easy to do. Finding people, I know Teresa had looked for some, because I asked her to, and they're just not out there. If it's 15 hours, 20 hours, whatever it is a week, that won't put a dent into it. And I think that was the issue that we had. I would love to have had, 2 or 3 part-time people doing that, because they don't have to come in the office at all. This is all done at home for the most part. But we had some difficult times finding that. So at this point, we're going to take, the purpose of this is to give the report, like we said, take all your input back, and then we'll sit back. And also, Mr. Bose will be sitting with us also, because it's important that the finance director's involved.
Thank you. Val, you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, hold on one second, Chris. Tony?
Oh, sorry. Oh, Chris. Okay. Just quickly, because I wasn't here last year. What is the contingency basis? What
The
is
percentage?
What is, yeah,
I believe it was 20%.
20%, so they would collect 20% of everything they audit that returns taxes over and above, that for 1 year, right? So that's 20% of the entire revenue they generate?
Yes.
For 1 year, okay. That's not out of line with, other, all collections these days are done by companies, right? All audits, collections are done by, and they're getting larger all the time. So, but I like the idea of having, you start off softly. You get a little bit tougher, and then the third year, okay, you guys, and that way it prepares everybody for it. So I would be really interested in any ideas you have on what that second year would look like.
Okay.
Chris?
Yeah, just to, I think Mike made the statement about, the council being business-friendly. That's true, and I don't think that what you're proposing is in any way, shape, or form not business-friendly. In fact, I think it helps our businesses, because if I'm one of those 1,000+ that are
Level
filing this
playing
properly-
field. Right.
But,
Level
right.
playing field, right.
So I don't know, we said we would give it a year. It's been a year. I think it's come to the time where we've got to take some action. And I also really agree with the statement you made earlier. Here we are nickel and diming quality town services for our residents, like the roads tonight, and we could go on with what we need funds for, and yet here we have an untapped resource, whether people realize it or not. Unfortunately, it's their responsibility to file this, and they're not filing it. So you gave them a year. It's been out there. I do think it's critical at this point.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else? Okay, I'll just finish and say thank you, Teresa. Great job can I call you T? Mark
can.
calls you T all the time.
Absolutely.
But thank you very much, as always. You do a wonderful job. You've given us a lot to chew on. I think when you came here last, it was just after 2022. We were just coming out of companies a lot of them being shuttered.
Right.
A lot of them having not many people in there. And they were struggling to just keep operations going, keep supply chains going. You came at the beginning of 2023 where, I think a lot of this was really just, everybody trying to get now their feet back on their feet. I think we did a good job. I think you did a good job. 85 people out of the 642, 10+%, give or take, a little bit more than 10%. So we made a step in the right direction. You brought more in, hopefully, with those 85. We'll see what that data looks like. I agree with the rest of the council. I think now we need to take additional steps, whether it's 1 step or 2 steps. I would like to see maybe a proposal that looks a little bit more at some of the questions on the finances. And I'd like to see, maybe 2 or 3 proposals that the council can choose from. So that if you have a proposal that maybe, somebody looks at and says, I'm uncomfortable with that for this reason or that, we have a couple others maybe that we can choose from. And, I do think if we get to a point where we are ready to choose a big firm and we go big, like, what's the company that you were talking about? TMA. I do think we should, seek multiple quotes on it to see if that 20% is competitive, if anybody's willing to do it for a more competitive price. Maybe we did that, but if we did, we should probably re-quote it and get a few different quotes on the final service that we decide from. Probably want to put an RFP out there and do it in that way so that we do the best for the town, maximize the opportunity for the town to capture the revenue that we deserve.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
Good to see you. Okay, we are done, Mr. Town Manager, with item 3?
You're done
All
with the
set?
presentation, yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any discussions? I think we have some actions for the town manager to follow up and come back in the next meeting or two with some suggestions or thereabouts whenever you're,
Probably 2 more meetings.
couple meetings?
I'll be going next week.
Okay, very good. All right, we're moving on to item 4, councilperson communications. Who has
I
something
have
to
something,
share?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
2
Mike.
brief items.
Okay.
I had the pleasure of attending the Southington High School football weightlifting competition on Saturday morning. My son was a participant, so I'm a little lopsided on that one. So he did really well. The whole team did really well. They actually won the event. It was them and 4 other schools. And they came in first place with over 1,000 pounds in the lead. So it was a really great event for the high school football team, and they're gearing up. They've been going ever since the end of last season, so they're working hard towards this season. And then the other thing I wanted to discuss, we unfortunately had to cancel our Public Works meeting last week, but I wanted to inform the residents that you'll be able to get your car tags for the transfer station at the Highway Department building on Saturday, April 6th and Saturday, April 13th. You can obviously go anytime during the week, during their normal office hours, but on those 2 Saturdays, you can also go and get your tags those 2 days. And we'll talk about that again at the next meeting, but I just wanted to get it out there so folks could prepare. They're still on every other week, but come the beginning of April, they'll be open every week. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Del Santo. Anybody else? Councilman Palmieri.
Yes, I had the pleasure on February 28th of attending the Y annual meeting with Jen, Paul, I think Tony and Jim. Did I get it? No? Oh, okay.
I was there in spirit.
Tony
Okay.
and Paul. Yeah.
So it was a great event. Just want to thank the YMCA for all they do. One particular speaker was very touching, hearing how the Y has personally impacted her and her family. So they really do great things in our community. So thank you to the YMCA. And also on last Monday, a week ago today, we had our monthly STEPS meeting. So a couple things. If you remember, I mentioned the council a couple meetings ago that the 7th, 9th, and 11th grade students had taken the survey. We do that every 2 years, if you remember, to get data specific to our community and where we stand with our youth. So the next step now is we're gathering that data and working on how to share that with the community. So stay tuned for that. The next thing is our youth council, which consists of middle and high school students, have launched their It's Not Cheesy campaign. So I don't know if our camera, I don't know how well the camera is, but if they can zoom in, there is a QR code here too, if the camera can see that. And this is in partnership with many pizza restaurants in town. There's Randy, who's our VIP, very important pizza. And again, the kids came up with this slogan. He's been in several local restaurants. I'd like to give them a shout out and an appreciation for them participating. Craft Kitchen, Elderon's Pizza, Nana's Pizza, Ronaldo's, Southington Pizza House, Spartan 2 Restaurant, and The Fireplace. On the pizza boxes are these stickers, and there is a QR code to take the quiz on positive family communication. If you can't see the QR code, you can just go to southingtonsteps.org family for that. And again, just wanted to share the great work of our youth.
Yes, Jen.
So I will just, also, I brought a prop. It's a pizza box. If you don't know what a pizza box is, that's it. But you're gonna get these boxes, and it's gonna have the "It's Not Cheesy" sticker with the QR code. And I just wanted to comment on it. When I saw it, it just, as a parent, and I know a lot of us have kids, young, old, but it really is, life goes fast, and sometimes you don't take the time to have a conversation, take them aside and just ask them, about their day. How are things going? And these are really, really important conversations, especially at younger ages, and it's not cheesy at all. It's actually very impactful, and we are so fortunate in this town to have coalition-like steps that focuses in on these things that are data-based, using the survey. And if you also recall, this youth council also created the liquor stickers, which is another very creative thing. They are constantly working to make an impact on our youth, and I think that's so important. And then one more thing is, I did have the distinct honor of attending the Eagle Court of Honor for Ian McPhee, who earned his Eagle Scout status this weekend for the Kays Meadow kiosk. So it was also, this was an exceptionally moving little ceremony where he was honored, and you saw his journey from a young boy up to Eagle Scout today, and all the things that he was able to accomplish. And I was able to present a proclamation and let him know how much we appreciate him as a leader in our town.
Thank you, Jen. I did have an opportunity to speak with Ian McPhee over the phone in my absence to congratulate him, and I informed that we would have the Boy Scouts here. We were going to try to get them in the next month or so, but it turns out that we have some that are at university, so we will wait a couple months until they're back and bring a few of them in the May-June timeframe. So I did let Ian know that we will invite him here personally for that. Thank you.
Is there pizza in that box, or? No.
Not anymore.
Paul ate it. So if there
It does
was-
look empty, I'm not gonna, it does look like there's grease at the bottom, I'm not gonna lie.
And anything that is getting parents and children to talk is good. Excellent. Anybody else for council? Yes.
Just one.
Councilwoman DiPaolo.
Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to follow up on, for our residents, the bus route coming through town did start yesterday. I want to thank the town manager. We had a conversation this morning. And for residents, information on the bus route, the schedule, I believe I went on the website, so the schedule, the fare information, and the route map is on the town website, Facebook, I'm assuming. And I did notice we did receive an email from David LaPrey, so I'm wondering, can that information be also put on our website, or would residents go to the Calendar House?
They're going to be, Dave's going to put it on the Calendar House page, so there's no confusion on who to call, so.
Okay.
yep.
So just so residents know, the Calendar House is going to have, if you contact them on their Dial-A-Ride schedule, they will have, you can schedule a bus to go to one of the 3 stops on the bus route. But it has to be within the same
And
scheduling.
55 and above, or 18 and above with a disability.
Right, same requirements.
Same
that
requirements for the Calendar
Dial-A-Ride.
House bus,
Yep,
yes.
Yep. So I think that's a great thing. I know Nancy Chiro's here, George. I know you're going to be speaking hopefully in public communications about the bus route. So it's great that we have the bus route coming into Southington. It's a small portion, it impacts a small portion of our community. So now the goal is to work with the state and to keep this going so that we can get a bus route through town and so that it can benefit all of the residents in town.
And that's going to give a brief update on it also.
That's
As our
right.
transportation liaison during my report, she'll give us.
Yep, good. Thank you, Annette. Thank you.
Yep, and Val, since you mentioned the website, we also have on the website the paratransit requirements that the state offers is on the website with information on how to request that service, what to do, the form and the hearing and everything that's required. So I'm sure Annette will talk about that. So thank you. Anybody else for councilperson communications? I'll just add that for the YMCA Person of the Year, Chris, we did have a proclamation for Dan Daigle. So we did have that day during the month as Dan Daigle Day. So congratulations again to Dan and all of the recipients of the YMCA awards. And if there's nothing else from anybody else, then we will close the councilperson communications and move on to reports of special committees. Item A, self-insurance. Tony?
Sure, yeah, I chaired that in the absence of a few folks. Not much, and that's why I wasn't at the Y.
Oh, okay.
There wasn't much to report. All there was the fact that the claims in January had sort of gone down a bit from the sort of record months of November and December, which is good, but it doesn't sort of fix our problem with the fact that our claims have been above where they should be. And that's something that has to be addressed at the March meeting, because we're going to have to make a decision on what information goes into essentially the budget for next year. So that's a really important meeting, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Anybody have questions for Tony on self-insurance? Jack, you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Item B, Library Building Committee. Mr. Town Manager, if you can give an update.
I was at the Board of Finance workshop, and I know Jim's not here, so we'll pass on that one.
Yep, he did inform that we still are on. We did get the footings and the foundation in for the addition, so that was done this past week. And you could see that they're closing it in a little bit more, some coatings on the insulation surfaces, and continue to be on schedule, plus or minus a week or so, and generally speaking on budget with the ability to continue to pull some items in that we were looking to do. More will come at our next meeting from Jim. Okay, item C, open space. Jen?
Yep, just a brief update. Pleasant Street Community Garden is being prepped for the upcoming season, and we have some good interest in the site, so excited for planting season to come. We are also continuing to move through some grant applications to fund improvements at Novix Open Space and additional structure at Pleasant View. And to be determined for a trilogy of farm heritage / open space tours we're calling Harvesting History, Southington's Farming Legacy. And I'll have more on the dates in the fall. And participants, we're going to be working with them and also alongside the Barnes and the Historical Society to coordinate it. It's also going to align with the Barnes 50th anniversary coming up in November as well, so TBD.
Excellent. Any open space questions for Councilwoman Clark? Nope. Hearing none. Move on to item 6, the Town Manager's Report and Communications.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These are statutory requirements per the bond ordinance that you had a public hearing on today. The first one is, and I'll have to read it, this is a favorable recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission under 8-24 for an appropriation of $15 million for costs related to the 24-25 Road and Bridge Improvement Project, and authorizing the issue of $15 million of notes to finance the appropriation. That'll be acted on later on, but they give unanimous vote on that.
Thank you.
Any questions on that? Second item is the Board of Finance. We had the public hearing last week, and they also gave a favorable review back to the Town Council for the same bond authorization. Any questions on that?
Any questions for the Town Manager on either one? Anything else, Mr.
Yes,
Town
the
Manager?
third item, just an update from our traffic liaison on that, on the bus.
All right, so Val touched on some of this, but I think it's worth reiterating so people are well aware. Bus Route 532 in Southington started yesterday on March 10th. It connects Plainville Center and Queen Street. The stops are Price Chopper, Stop and Shop, and Walmart. It operates hourly and 7 days a week. It's timed for a quick transfer with CT Fast Track, Route 102, to and from Hartford, New Britain, Bristol, and then back to Plainville Center. It is on the town website, as we mentioned. It's on the homepage under featured news and headlines, and it's listed under bus expansion, new Route 532. And in this location, there are links to the weekday schedule, the weekend schedule, the route map, the fare pricing, and also a paratransit application, which helps to determine eligibility for Connecticut complimentary ADA paratransit services. But as we also mentioned, if you use the Calendar House transportation, you can coordinate to be dropped off at any of the 3 stops. We went to the CT Transit website to get the information that we posted to the town website. However, 2 representatives from CTDOT were responsible for coordinating the formal announcement of the new service on the state side, and 1 representative from CT Transit was responsible for coordinating public outreach for them. I reached out to her today just for details on the public outreach. I have not heard back from her yet, but anything I hear, I will certainly pass along.
Yeah, and can I just
Yes, please.
just wanted to mention that we did get noticed, so they did do some outreach. There was a
They
press
did.
conference on Friday, last Friday. We got noticed late, Thursday, I think, right? And there was an article in the Hartford Courant, and I think there was I think one of the news stations, I was told, picked up on it, did a report last night. So I think they're getting some outreach done. But, I mean, I think the town, what we need to do in town is.
There's one thing I think that's still missing here, and it's going to come, I assume, in the future. Well, those of us who took the bus trip, there was talk about stops on Queen Street. And I know that the last time we discussed this, maybe a month ago here at the Dias, that was also talked about. So I don't see that yet, so maybe that's coming down the pike. But right now, it's the 3 bus stops in Southington. But I know I was on the trip, so was Annette, so were you, Val, and Victoria, you were there too. They made it perfectly clear that they were going to have stops on the road. We don't have that yet, but maybe when Annette hears back from the state, they may
Yeah,
add
any
those.
information I get from her, we can
Okay.
post on the website or
Yeah,
pass
it'd be
along.
great copying us on that. Yeah, thank you.
The information hasn't been perfect since leading up till even yesterday. Even the communications on the stops heading into there, which was, we didn't want to put misinformation out there, but even the stops that were finally, we were supposed to hear some final stops. We found out that information didn't come, and they weren't included in the first runs. They were not reported as occurring. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a, it'll take a few weeks for things to normalize a little bit and we back up and running. One thing that you didn't mention, Annette, is that, coming from the Public Works Subcommittee as well, there is a recommendation to the council that happened at the Public Works Subcommittee, the meeting last month, where they are trying to connect the sidewalks on Flanders Road as well, which I think is going to be beneficial for people walking. Flanders Street. The road between Darling Street and Queen Street is missing 2 segments of road. And for people who live on Darling Street and in that area, it's pretty dangerous walking on Flanders Street there. There's some blind spots coming around the bend, and people go fast in that area, and having continuous sidewalks down to Stop and Shop where, people may walk down there for this, I think will be beneficial. That's coming to town council in the next, we're going to have schedule a public meeting.
Hearing at the next meeting.
So at the next meeting, we will have it on our agenda to schedule the public hearing for the meeting after, and hopefully we can get those during this next warm weather cycle buttoned up. So more to come there.
Good. I think the important thing on the communication is, I'm seeing Kevin here too, Kevin Meyer. So it's important for a lot of the stakeholders in town that they're aware of the bus so that they can let their clients know. Kevin with the Housing Authority and Bread for Life. Missy here, the persons with disabilities. I mean, your group, Southern
Yes.
Community Services. That's where I think we need to just make sure we're getting the word out to those groups so that they can let their clients know that this bus has started.
Thank you. Thank you, Annette. Anybody else have questions, comments? Thank you, Annette. Thank you,
That
Mr.
finishes
Town
my
Manager.
report. There's no executive session tonight.
Thank you. Town Attorney's report. Mr. Town Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a very brief report. I received several phone calls from concerned residents as it relates to their receiving notice of late or delinquent water and sewer bills. I was able to look into that, and thankfully, I think the issue's been resolved. There was a glitch with the department in which addresses were not being updated. And as a result of that, bills were going out, but they weren't being sent to the appropriate addresses. And as a result of that, it would automatically trigger a delinquency notice, which ironically enough, did go to the correct address. So it's, I wouldn't say a computer glitch. I think it was more of a human error compounded by a computer glitch, but it appears to have been straightened out.
And will we be giving grace period to the people who were noticed late?
Yes.
So that they don't incur any late fees or anything like that?
My belief of the answer is yes. I did put a call on the superintendent last week. I was unable to connect with him, but I do believe that's the case, yes.
Okay.
Okay. The engineering department then.
Yeah, sorry, Lou, could you, I'll give you a call afterwards about that, the sewer committee meeting later on.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Town Attorney?
No, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, moving on to item 8, public communications. Anybody who would like to speak, come on up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Nancy Chiro, 330 Annalise Avenue, Southington. I want to begin by just saying thank you to the council. Not all of you were on the council at the time that this began in 2018, when we were, George and I were trying to get public transportation coming to Southington for our disabled population, for our elderly, and anyone who can't drive a car, and just for lots of reasons. I want to publicly thank Councilwoman Val DiPaolo for her support. She's been on our transportation committee and has been just great in letting us know what's been going on. And in fact, she called me back in the middle of February, early February, to let me know that the bus was coming March 10th. At that time, I was on vacation in Puerto Vallarta, and I contacted the Transportation Committee and said, keep your eyes and ears open for some information in the newspapers, because it's going to be publicized, but we can't let the word out with the newspapers. The state has to do it first. So I came home from vacation last week, and I was expecting to see like a billboard, that went over by the old Ronaldo's, that would say, public transportation is here. I didn't see anything. So then I went to the town green. I'm looking, oh, it's got to be on the green. I didn't see anything. Then I went to DES. I looked on their sign. There wasn't anything. Then I'm getting calls now this week, pictures of a bus in front of the Stop and Shop. So people from our transportation committee, people that are stakeholders in town are sending me pictures. There's a bus in front of Stop and Shop. Nobody's on it, but the bus driver said, this is our bus. And I said, you didn't hear about it? Nobody heard about it. I just got back from vacation. None of the stakeholders heard about it. Now, I understand there's a communication, like you said, Councilman Chaplinsky, you said that, communication's been a little rough with the state. They haven't let everybody know everything. That report that Annette did was perfect. It would have been a great report to go out to ARC, the veterans, Southington Transportation, Social Services, Bread for Life, the Housing Authority, you name it, all the people that are on our transportation committee that would have loved to have heard this information, to say a bus is coming, start telling your clients, start telling your constituents. So obviously you all got my email. I'm sure it got spread to you today, that I frustratingly sent to all of our transportation people last night. I said, I'm really upset that you guys didn't hear about it. I'm getting emails. Well, how come we don't know about it? I didn't tell anybody. We didn't know it started already. How are we going to get our clients on there? How much does it cost? Where are the routes? When is it going to stop? Where's it going to go? I said, I don't have all the answers. So today, it was this morning at 9 a.m. I guess everything was on the website this morning. But that was a great report, and I would love to have that report. Maybe you get a copy of that, and you send it out to our transportation committee so that they can find out and they can start spreading the word. I was hoping some flyers would go out to them or whatever, but that's another thing. Okay, secondly, there's the bus, we have paratransit. You guys talked about paratransit. So paratransit is, as you all know, or most of you probably know, in case somebody doesn't, it's for about 10% of our population will get paratransit. So starting from Stop and Shop, Queen Street, to the Plainville line, anyone who lives within a 1.5 mile radius of either side of that line will be entitled to paratransit, which means that an elderly disabled person could get ride to go anywhere in the state for any medical treatment or anything for $3.50 with a caregiver with them for free. So that's really important that maybe I'll work with the Disability Commission. Together, we could get these applications I'm so glad it's on the, I'm going to look at it, pull it down tomorrow, because I I listened to a webinar on how to fill that application out about a year ago, so I have to get updated in it. But it's not easy. It's not like you say, here's an application, just go apply. There's a lot of information they require, and the state just doesn't let anyone say, yeah, I'm 75 years old and I'm 65 and I need a ride. Well, no, you got to have a little more information. Not this, you're elderly. There's a lot of information you need, so that when they come to you, they'll come to your house and pick you up and bring you anywhere. So it's not just bring you from the bus stop, it's bring you from your home to wherever you need to go. If you need cancer treatments, you can go every day of the week for $3.50. They'll take you to Hartford and bring you back to your house. We need that to go further. So I was talking to someone today, actually from ARC, and they were like, oh, I'm so excited because we have so many people on West Street in apartments that they need to get to doctor's appointments. And well, they're not entitled to this. Just people that live from Stop and Shop to Plainville. So anyway, we've got to work on that for the future. That's another story. But I'd love to work with whoever would like to work to get these applications out, learn how to fill them out, get committees together, get people together, get clients together, and help people fill these applications out for paratransit, because that's important. And there's applications out there for people who can't afford to get on the bus. I think United Healthcare does that. They give out free bus passes. Somebody does. I don't know who. So we got to find out that, too.
Thank you, Nancy.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Okay, that's it. Thank you. But thanks for the support that it's here because of you. Thanks.
Thank you.
George Pohorlak, 1297 East Street. This is not my first time coming to you to talk about transportation, and I'm very happy to say after 55 years and 42 days, public transportation is back to Southington. Only it's been a long wait, and we started pushing, Nancy, myself, and the Disability Commission fought for this for many years. And I attended the press conference in Berlin on Friday, and Lieutenant Governor Beisowitz spoke vehemently about the benefit of paratransit. That was her focus for all the affected towns, and the dramatic increase in the number of people that will receive that, and that was our original push. All the other representatives from the other towns spoke passionately about transit-oriented development, people, career path. The headline in this Saturday's Hartford Current was Connecticut Transit Career Corridor. And that was one of the major focuses, and all the, like I say, the town officials from those other towns spoke passionately. The press conference was held in an industrial park in Berlin. It was very, and that was their focus, to bring people to work. And obviously, it's more than just work. It's the paratransit piece. And as Nancy said, years ago, when the 2018 study was done by the state, they had phase one, which came down, Route 10 over West Queen and up into Bristol, and that covered about 7% of the population of the town of Southington based upon town data that we got. This new route probably only covers 10% of the population of the town of Southington, so that leaves a lot bigger percentage. I think when the original phase two report that was going to come down Route 10 over into Plantsville, over to the Park and Ride, and then up over West Street, back up West Street to Bristol, that was going to cover almost 60% of the population of the town. And I challenged the people from Connecticut Transit about, when are you going to do the next phase? They said it's still on the table, and they were talking about connecting, through town over into the Park and Ride, right at the Cheshire border there, which would go by that would even be further. So it's still on the table, so it's just a matter of who do we have to push to get that next phase done? Because, we got a little piece done, and that's wonderful. 55 years and 42 days. I hope we don't have to wait another 55 years to get the next phase done. And the paratransit application piece, people say it's intimidating, and I'm confident that the Commission on Disabilities, for persons with disabilities, will be able to step forward and assist whoever might need assistance for that. And the need to advertise, everybody got surprised. Press conference tomorrow. That was the first we heard about it, and I had to be able to get there, and it was a sunny day, and there had to be 60, 70 people there, and they all cheered and applauded. But like they say, the Lieutenant Governor's comments about the paratransit piece was interesting. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all you've done to help get us to that 55-year mark and get it restored. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Anybody else?
Hi there, Melissa Hallgren, 31 Birchcrest, in my position as the Disability Commission Chair. I just want to say thank you, George. You know, we rallied George at our meeting when he came to tell us that he won after all those years. I just want to correct a couple things. It is 3/4 of a mile from the route, and despite my best efforts back in November, when George told us it was coming in November, which we thought, I did this like whole map to try to zone out the people that qualified. It's 3/4 of a mile, not a mile and a half, and the application is quite daunting. It is 9 pages. You have to have an interview. You have to wait 21 days, and then they approve you or not approve you. And then you are free to pay your $380 for the fare, and you're on a shared bus. So they explained to me today, it can take anywhere from 45 minutes to 5 hours for these people to get to where they need to go. And I want the public to be aware of that before they go through all of this, to make sure that's something that fits with them. I already reached out to Janet Mellon this morning, and Mary and I, my vice chair, will be going into all the senior housing with what we call Lunch and Learn. Mary and I do it often. We go in and we give them information. So next Lunch and Learn, I'll be bringing 1 million copies of these, and we will be more than glad to help everybody fill them out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Going once? Anybody else for public communications? Okay, we will close public communications. I wanted to just add that our calendar house is also available for paratransit if they meet the qualifications for the calendar house. So for people who are in need there, the calendar house can also assist for people who are who meet the needs of the calendar house requirements. Okay. Old business. Item A, action on 8-24 referral from Planning and Zoning for ordinance appropriating $15 million for costs related to the 2024-2025 Road and Bridge Improvement Program and authorizing the issue of $15 million in bonds and notes to finance the appropriation.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Thank you, Chris.
Second.
Thank you, Mike. We have a motion and a second. We're open for discussion. Any additional discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just want to thank Annette for, a really good presentation to really lay everything out. I think that helps the residents. It's a little daunting, right? It's a lot of money, a lot of roads, and we do hear about the roads all the time. And but it's a great. I think it's a great tool that that you're using, and I think it's good for the residents to see all that.
Thank you, Councilwoman DiPaolo. Anybody else? Hearing none, Madam Town Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Dietzick,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Item B, action on Board of Finance minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chair?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman DiPaolo and Councilman Del Santo. Any discussion on the Board of Finance minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that'll be, motion passes 8-0. Item C, action on public hearing ordinance $15 million for costs related to the 2024-2025 Road and Bridge Improvement Program and authorizing the issue of $15 million bonds and notes to finance the appropriation and setting the date for referendum of November 5th, 2024.
Make a motion.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the action on the public hearing ordinance? Okay, hearing none, let's have a roll call also, Madam Clerk.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Dietzick,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Item 10, new business, tax refunds.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the tax refunds that are presented in our packets.
Thank you, Councilman Perry and Councilman Dietzick.
Second.
Yep. Any discussion on the tax refunds? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Appointments, we have Senior Citizens Commission, 3 members, 3-year term expiring March 2027. Mr. Town Manager, can we do all of them at once?
They're your appointment, Mr. Chair, so you can do
Okay.
them all at once.
I think we'll do all of them. I think we're looking for reappointment of all 3. Carmela Kimmel, Mike Bunko, and Lisa Camuso. So we're looking for a motion.
No,
Nope.
they're your choice. You're
Oh,
done.
mine, I'm sorry. Then I am reappointing all 3 of them.
Yep.
Any,
Motion to adjourn.
anything
Second.
else? Motion to adjourn in a second? All in favor? Aye, thank you.
Good night, everyone.